Hello. Welcome to the THC Show. I think this is episode number 198.
198, yes.
So, getting up there for sure. You'd think by now I'd know what I'm doing here. On the show today, we're going to have 8 out of 10. Glenn, of course, join us for the 420 session and beyond. We'll visit the Healing Wave CSP RV and see what's going on out there for a little bit. Talk a little bit about the other CSP chapters that are operating across Canada. But mostly what I want to talk about is the refusal by Health Canada of our application to do what we're doing here. Last week on the show, and I think maybe even the show before that, I read you the response that we sent for their intent to deny. I'm not going to read it again. I probably should to give some context to what I'm talking about here. But, it's a long letter. And it has a lot of detail in there about, how we're helping people, that we've become experts in the field because we've been on the front lines here for over 6 years, that this is all a demonstration every day. Every single day we demonstrate that this is our way to deal with the overdose crisis. We improve upon that way every time there's any way to improve upon it. Let me turn that down before it becomes more confused. I was going to hand it to Glenn because he knows how to do that. But, I knew that there was something. I got it.
Just scroll down. Remember, I didn't hit the speaker.
I leave it a little bit so I can hear a little bit. But, we have never had a problem with what we're doing here other than with the authorities. And with the ability to keep up with the demand. So, that's got to tell you something right there, that there's so much demand for what it is that we're offering here. Obviously, there's something good going on with what we're offering. Certainly what we've demonstrated clearly is that there's nothing dangerous going on with what we're doing here. We've not had a single complaint other than those who report that sometimes they eat too much of the edibles. And for that, that's a personal thing there. Nobody knows where their limits are, especially if you haven't tried it before. You need to really start low and go slow, or you can have an uncomfortable experience, one that you probably wouldn't want to repeat again. But if you use that as a guideline, instead of using it as an overcorrection in your life and deciding never to try that again, and you do it right, then there is a lot of benefit to be had by people that use those high-dose edibles for those that have needs that those high-dose edibles can help with. Our main focus here since the beginning, over 6 years ago, coming up real fast on 6.5 years, has been this public health emergency, where there's an alarming number of people overdosing on the poison drug supply that's available on the streets. And there's a lot of people that are using that poison drug supply throughout all the different demographics of the province and of Canada and of North America. So our main and primary focus since the very beginning, this is what the CSP was doing. It was responding to this public health crisis going on with what I knew was at least a part of the solution. And as it turned out, it's a pretty big part of the solution. If people had easy access to high-dose edibles and proper information about how to use those things, it could put a real dent in how many people are lost to their addiction and suffering with all of the different things that go along with that, the poverty, the homelessness, the mental illness. So we've really done a good job on the ground as far as demonstrating that this works, and it works really well, and nobody gets harmed, which is really, really important here. So when we had to, which wasn't at the beginning, because at the beginning there was no special license and exemption division of Health Canada for cannabis. There was no Cannabis Act, there was just laws against it pretty much. And so we didn't want to just start doing it without telling the authorities what we were doing, because we knew that what we were doing was controversial with respect to the laws in Canada. So having the full support of the board at Vancouver Area Network of Drug Users, a publicly funded peer group of support for the people in the neighborhood that are oppressed by the drug laws. With their full support, we went and presented it to the City Council in Vancouver and explained that cannabis is the real safe supply in the form of high-dose edibles. It can compete with those other powders and pills that people are taking that are addictive and harming them and killing them. And then the Vancouver Police Board was informed in a similar fashion by myself and Rob Laurie, the lawyer. And so after a couple months of continued lobbying of City Council, we went ahead with the program. And then, over the course of time, 2.5 years as a matter of fact, of serving hundreds of people that would line up twice a week to get a care pack, City Council in Vancouver, not because of us, but as a result of our work, passed a motion to support low barrier access to cannabis to address the overdose crisis. And that resulted in us having to apply to Health Canada to get a license to do what it is that we were doing. I should mention that a change occurred once that ruling came in the city here, where we were able to go and get a storefront and provide storefront access to people to be able to get what it is that they need there. And of course, with the storefront comes expenses, and with expenses comes a need to raise money. And so we put together a collaboration where there was a for-profit dispensary working with the CSP to provide it with whatever it needed to make sure that it could continue, and that was the reason for that collaboration. And then the city said that they could only support us if Health Canada did, so we had to now put in an application. So bear in mind, this is 3.5 years after we've been doing what we've been doing, helping hundreds, if not thousands of people, rescuing hundreds from addiction that are there and still accessing our services. And so now we need to put in an application to Health Canada to get some sort of an exemption from the laws or a special license for what we're doing. So we took great care in doing that and put together an application that had doctors and professors and harm reduction groups supporting us with brilliantly constructed letters of support. We had video testimonials for about 90 minutes, clips of many of the people that we'd been helping, talking about how profound our program had been in helping them with their health and wellness. An application filled with scientific studies, because there'd been lots by that time showing the effectiveness of cannabis, high-dose edibles, and in other forms in addressing the opioid crisis, how in areas where there were cannabis dispensaries, there was less incidence of opioid addiction, other things like this. So it was an application that you couldn't say no to, basically. I mean, how could you? Why would you? An application that was long and detailed and compelling, but not something that a high school student couldn't pretty simply get a handle on, within a few short hours probably, and recognize the profound value in supporting what it was that we were doing here. So we put that application in, and at the same time, because, having worked for that length of time, over 3.5 years now, at risk of law enforcement, of lots of different things, we felt that we should have an emergency exemption from the Cannabis Act until they could figure out how to give us a proper exemption or a special license or whatever. And so we also applied for that. To Patty Haydu, who was the federal health minister at the time, along with Health Canada, Mr. Benoit Seguin, the person in charge of that division of Health Canada. They acknowledged receipt of our applications the following day. Both departments did, stating that they would try to process them in a timely fashion, which would be good because we're talking about life and death situations here where people are dying every day, and the quicker we could intervene with the harm reduction strategy that we were asking for licenses for, the quicker we could stop that from happening for many of the people that were about to have it happen to them. But time went on and time went on, and 3 months later we have a phone meeting with Health Canada. They apologize for taking so long. They say that they'll have licenses for us in early January, but they don't. Time goes on, and the whole year goes on, and we're sending them more scientific studies that are coming in as they're coming in, until my lawyer at the time said, yeah, we're not going to bother doing that anymore. That jury is already in. They understand the science that supports what it is that you're asking for, so we don't need to do that anymore. It's kind of a moot point. When we would do that over the course of that year plus that we were doing that, Mr. Benoit Seguin would email me back and say, rest assured, Mr. Magnuson, that our team is working diligently on your file every day. At what cost, I wondered every time, you know. How much is that costing a team of people to work so hard on trying to figure out that application, which must be so complicated for them? It certainly wasn't for us. We knew exactly what we were doing. We weren't having much difficulty at all meeting the needs of the people in the neighborhood and the people that would come to see us. Not hard to figure out by talking to them and getting their thing, what works, and you know, how to advise them best and all of that. It wasn't hard for us. But apparently it was really, really complicated for Health Canada, because this went on for another year. In that year, I might add by that time, I mean long by that time, we had been kicked out of the store, the City of Canada did, and with a threat to the landlord from the licensing department, we had to stop what we were doing from the store. But we just kept doing what we were doing from the RV parked in front of the store. So we're still doing the same service, although somewhat handicapped or handcuffed in our ability and limited in our abilities to be able to really meet the needs of people as well as we could within the proper store. But not much major difference at all. We still have most of the same products. We're serving the people what they need. We're running the program where, you know, the 250 that turned into now 269, I think we're at, members that can get their 420 milligrams of high-dose edibles for free every 4 days. That's still going on in the RV. So we've been in the RV for over 3 years now. Or no, sorry. 3 years coming up this November 1st. It'll be a good 2.5 plus years. We come every day in the morning. My staff members meet me here. We load up all the stuff that we need in the RV and we take it out there. And at 11 a.m. we open up the window and there's always a lineup of people. And there's a steady stream all day long of people coming to thank us for what we're doing there, to ask us to please never stop, to tell us their stories about what happened in their life and what's happening and how cannabis is helping them and all that stuff that goes on here every day. So Health Canada, a year ago, last April 22nd, finally, after all that time, sent us a letter, but it was an intent to deny our application. So they had come up with 2 reasons why they could deny our application. The one was because all of our products were not regulated, and for them to support us in any way, we would have to be using only regulated cannabis, coming with licensed approval from the head honcho there, Mr. Trudeau. And the other one being that only adults can get high-dose edibles with the support of a doctor, because those things are just too dangerous to not have a doctor supporting your use of them to tell you to go low or start low and go slow. And those were their reasons. They didn't mention, or maybe they mentioned, but they didn't allow for the other 3 ways to get an exemption or a special license. There's 3 paths to doing that. All you need is to satisfy one of the 3. That you're in the public's interest, that it's about public health and safety, or that it's about research. But they didn't venture to think about any of those as being ways to give us any exemptions or anything. So my lawyer at the time wrote them a really good, reasoned, articulate response with respect to our desire to also have regulated cannabis and ways that that could be achieved, and to state that we could not require this doctor's oversight for people, because that would eliminate so many of the more vulnerable and people at risk that we're helping to begin with. And so to stand up for those people, we needed to have them drop that requirement. And we wrote them our letter of response. And here this past March, we get a second intent to deny, for the same reasons as the first one was there. And still no acknowledgement that we qualify in those other three paths. So I wrote them from my heart and from all of my experience here. I wrote them what I thought was a pretty powerful letter to help them understand why what we're doing here is extremely necessary, a question of life and death for people, and that they really needed to find a way to approve our application in some way or shape or another, and that to not do so would result in many more deaths, a lot more suffering in that group of people that are least deserving of suffering, because they suffered already more than most of us in their lifetimes, most of them not by any of their own choosing. The vast majority here are people who are afflicted, homeless, in poverty, and suffering that mental health that we talk about. That mental health issue is primarily, for most of the people, a question of having been interfered with sexually at a very young age. And they just can't get over it. And don't say they should just be able to get over it, because you don't know. Nobody knows what anybody's journey is, what anybody's demons are. Nobody knows. And those people, all people, deserve to have the respect to be able to do what it is that they could find to do for themselves, to deal with their issues. And here we have a government that is actively targeting and harming the disabled in this country. They're attacking people that are already suffering. Not only are they denying them a storefront with dignity like everybody else has for whatever drugs they're taking, pretty much. You got your liquor store, you got your drug store, 419. But they're going to make sure there's no high-dose edibles available anywhere for people. Oh, except the fact that you can grow your own. That's right. Anybody in Canada, apparently, if you live in a province that isn't even more archaic than the federal government, you can grow cannabis for yourself. If you have a medical condition and doctors on board, you can grow quite a bit of cannabis. Because of decisions won at the Supreme Court level in fighting Health Canada, ordinary human beings have the right to make their own concentrates and edibles. So cannabis high-dose edibles that are so dangerous that people can't go into a store where they could buy them in properly labeled packages, but yet they're not so dangerous that you can't have ordinary people making them themselves all around their children, apparently. No labeling required, no packaging required, no doctor required, nothing required. Yet they're too dangerous for those poor people that can't make them themselves, that don't have a hookup, to be able to walk into a store and get a properly regulated product. So you tell me if that makes any sense while I bring in our guest for the 420 session, as always. Wells.
Mr. Wells.
How are you, Mr. Wells?
Sir Magnuson, isn't it?
Sir Wells, I'm sorry. I haven't quite embraced that yet, you know.
Neither have I. I just remembered now.
I'll have to get more on it, that everybody that addresses me has to call me sir now.
That might help. Then people will be able to see me.
I gave some guy heck for calling me sir the other day.
Did you? Well,
that was my dad a long time ago.
He must have saw the show.
You know, it was before the show. Because if it had been after the show, I would have gone, yeah, well, of course.
What, the Rick Maverick show?
Why aren't you on your knees?
All right, he told
One knee, anyway.
He told you, sir, before that, did he?
Yeah.
All right.
The odd time somebody says, can I help you with that, sir? And I go, hey, what am I, old?
What are you smoking today?
Oh, I got this going on, my regular blend.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I got something special.
Oh,
Because I went to the...
don't light this up?
I went to...
All right.
Oh, man, I'm stuck on this bag.
I'm going to have something special
There
next
you go.
week called Project Z.
Oh, my God, that's heavy. What the heck is in there?
Gummies. All right, good luck there, sir.
Gummies.
He's just waiting to see the surgeon, he says.
Who is?
Doug, he just messaged us, yeah. Says, hi all, thank you Mr. Wells again, just waiting to see the surgeon. Hope it goes well, my friend. Oh, we have a
gift
from Miss D.
We have a gift from Miss D.
Oh, yes.
We got
She
the
has
Romulan,
awesome stuff.
or the strawberry Romulan. I'm going to have to
Nice.
roll some of that up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess we're
And
not
a nice,
smoking
and a
at
nice
420.
donation. A nice donation for the CS. Well, go ahead.
Thank
No,
you.
I can smoke. You can
Well,
smoke.
no, I want to try
We
this
should
too.
smoke. We're gonna. Here, share mine.
All right. Okay. That looks really nice. Let's show them.
It does. It really, really
Look at that.
does.
Oh, look at that beautiful bud.
Is this too thick
Really
now?
frosty. Very
Oh, I
nice.
gotta do something with that, or I won't
Oh,
be able to do
you
it.
can't see it very well. See, I better hold it still. There you go.
For those
Not
of you
too
who get
bad.
your grinders sticking from time to time, if you don't already know, a bit of ISO, rubbing alcohol.
Yeah.
It twirls real nice. Yeah, nice donation. We're pretty good with the CSP at this moment in time after being a little bit sparse before that.
Getting better?
But we're back to, it comes and goes, you
Yes,
know.
it does, doesn't it? Yeah, it
It's
does.
a lot we're putting out.
Yeah.
Somewhere's around 12 to 15,000 milligrams a day between the CSP program.
How many
And,
joints do you think you give
We
away?
do about 100 joints a day.
100 joints a day now,
Yeah.
eh? You be able to get an average on it?
Yeah, we did. We did a count for a few days to see. Because we were having trouble keeping up, man. I tell you.
Yeah. So now you know what you
And so we were also
approximately
giving
need.
out about 100 muffins
Wow.
every day.
Really, eh?
And
Wow.
so what we did was we had to cut back. We had to tell people you can have a joint or a
Yeah,
muffin
we've been doing that for a while, yes.
for a little while because
Yeah.
we were really having a hard time keeping up.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it spreads through the neighborhood. People come to understand they can come and get a free joint.
Yeah.
We don't give anybody a hard time about
No.
it for the most part.
No.
You know, we don't want it abused. You can get one a day.
Yeah.
That we also, you know, there was a lot of free joints being handed out with the stuff we were selling.
Yeah.
People, you know, would ask if they could have a free joint along with that, and why not? You know, but
And
that's-
what
it was
about
too
the
much.
people who buy an ounce for $60? Can they get a free joint too?
No, nobody that's
No.
buying anything gets a free joint
Yeah.
anymore.
Okay. Well,
I mean, you can buy 5 grams for
we
$5.
give a free joint to a guy who just bought a gram. But if you're spending like 30 or 40 or $50, you don't need that free joint.
You don't
right?
need
No,
the
no,
free joint,
no.
and
we
it's,
use a little
it's cutting
discretion
into our
there,
ability
right?
to. I don't
Yeah.
like saying no to people when
Yeah.
they come and say we're out. You know, we've been doing that far too frequently over the last little while. We're having a hard time keeping enough joints in to be able to do that with.
Oh, really, eh?
Yeah, they go
You gotta
really
keep,
fast.
Keep something for
So,
rolling,
you know,
right?
now, you know, people are desperate in this neighborhood. People figure stuff out, right? So what they do is they come and they buy a 5 bag. They want that 5 grams for $5.
Yeah.
And then and they'll ask for the free joint, but you can't give them the free joint because, you know, you already got the 5 bag and that's already a heck of a deal and you shouldn't need a free joint on top of that. So then they go away. Then they come back later. And then they ask for a free joint. And they do it in reverse.
Yeah,
So they get the
yeah,
free joint
yeah.
first, and then they'll come back and they'll buy the 5 bag.
So now we gotta really pay attention. Who we're
Well, I
doing
don't
now.
know. We don't pay that much attention because you know, these are desperate people. I would like to be able to give more to everybody. I really, the only reason I'm not wanting to have too much of that happen is because I have to say no to some people sometimes. I don't like having to do that. But, you know, ultimately, ideally, and this is in a perfect world, which we're never going to have, but the goal of the CSP for me was to be able to provide anybody that came and was a part of it to get whatever they need.
Yeah.
Like whatever you need to get through a day, to get through a week, whatever it is you need, we like to help you with that. And these are people in poverty, right? These are people that are homeless. The government provides meds and things for people, and cannabis is one of those things that would be so valuable, and the government won't do it. So, let's see if the cannabis community could do it. So that's what I did. And a whole bunch of really good people, many of them dispensary owners, but some of them just ordinary people as well. They came along and provided us with a whole bunch of stuff.
That smells good.
It does,
I can
doesn't
smell
it?
it right from here. Like,
I know.
It's like,
Miss D kind of outdid herself on the,
Oh,
on
yes.
the
Yeah.
strawberry Romulan.
Yes. Nice.
I'm sure you can find these products online if you Google such things.
That's
Hopefully that'll all come
candy
up.
bar, right?
Candy bar.
So now we're going to try some of the strawberry Romulan.
As soon as I roll it.
Tony
I'm in
Romulan.
training right now.
Are you in training?
Yeah,
Oh,
just,
wow. What are you training for?
Pot fights.
Oh, yes, the pot fight's coming up. Yes, I have to go do another. I'll do another thing for that. Yes.
I think
So
September 1st.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
It's that darned Asia.
Yeah. You're going to be fighting who?
Asia.
Oh, really?
What do I want to fight a girl for?
It's not. You
can't win either way.
Wearing clown shoes and throwing gummies
cannot
at each
win if
other. It's something that's supposed to be really funny.
If you're
It's gonna
fighting
be
a
fun.
girl, you can't win either way, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to beat the girl.
No, you just trip her.
But you don't want the girl to beat you either.
Trip her, sit on her butt, and there you go. You win.
Maybe we could find some way to do some dirty tricks behind the scenes or something. Take the glue off her rolling paper or something.
Yeah.
Oh, now look, she's thinking about what she's going to do to me.
Yeah.
Which was going to happen anyway,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
that's how that works, right? That's the thing with fighting a girl. They don't fight fair.
Uh,
So she's going to whip my butt at rolling joints for sure. The old guy with the arthritis in his hands.
Probably.
I mean, why do you think she picked me?
Good seeing you an easy mark.
Yeah. You didn't see her going after John Barefalo or Ted or Ted.
B, yeah.
You know?
Oh, Ted Smith.
No, not Ted Smith.
Oh, Ted Scully.
Ted Scully. You know,
yeah.
Ted Scully, the old holy roller from all the way back in the day. My original chief of volunteers with the Van Du project and all the joint rolling that went on there, and he's still here with us, rolling his heart out. You know,
Yep.
Not today, but most days. He'll be here tomorrow. She could have picked him. He was there. She
Yeah.
could have said, "Hey, Ted, want to go into a little joint rolling contest?"
Yeah.
No. She saw the easy prey. You know, the like
old
shooting
man.
ducks in a barrel there. Like that.
Sure. I like that.
But on back to that serious
Oh,
note
you got
there.
way later.
That's right.
How am I going to enter if you got way later?
Because you got me.
Got you.
You got me.
Oh my God, Sonny and Cher.
I got you, baby.
I know. That's what
No,
you
he's
said
really
earlier.
got Michelle, and I'm not telling you mine. But but it ain't a he. I'll give you that much. So yeah, this stupid government. So it must be so corrupt, eh?
Yeah.
Oh my God, where do they find these people that are willing to take a big paycheck to say no to life and death situations?
Yeah.
We spelled it out so clearly. The doctor's letter, the professor's letter, all of it, with half a brain. You figure it out. They're rescuing people from addiction. They've got hundreds of people now part of the program for years that no longer using the hard drugs. This is a program that we at Health Canada should embrace and try to improve and da-da-da. No, they got to find some soulless people that can't read, that walk around the office with the dollar bills pasted over their eyes and shoved into their ears so they can't hear anything and see anything. Their only mandate is to make sure you don't say yes to any of these lower prices than the stores, not using Trudeau's weed. Nobody gets to do that. So what is a special exemption for them? What is a special license for if it's not for something like what we're doing? Have they approved of any special licenses, and who got them, and what were they for, and what are they doing with them? Because if you can't give a special license to something as profoundly life-saving as what we have demonstrated for over 6 years, then wow, the department's job is obviously not to give out special licenses and exemptions to the groups that really need them. And I'm just appalled. I'm appalled. I asked our lawyer, Jack, about it. Jack Lloyd's such a great lawyer. Don't call him, though. He's too busy, I understand.
He is. He told me that too.
Maybe he's got an assistant that could help. He probably doesn't turn away clients. Maybe he does. I don't know. But, he's a great lawyer. And I messaged him, about this letter, and I said, "Are you as shocked and appalled as I am about this refusal from Health Canada?" And he said, "Well, I'm not shocked."
Yeah, he wasn't shocked.
He said, "I've been dealing with Health Canada for a long time, and they hate cannabis, so not shocked."
They hate cannabis. Oh, the fuck.
They love money. They hate cannabis. They don't want their family all to be executed for making a bad move against these very powerful people. That's my best guess.
Mm-hmm.
How could you say no to our application? I mean, how could you just send me a refusal without entering into dialogue, which I asked for several times in my letter, without coming here and witnessing for yourself what's going on, without probably, their vague letter of refusal basically only said that I didn't provide them with enough detail. Well, how am I supposed to know what amount of detail they want on things? There's no prerequisite to anything. They just sent me an intent to deny and said I had a chance to respond back. I think there's lots of detail in there, enough detail in all of the 5 different categories of paths to the exemption. In the legitimate supply, in the having doctors or no doctors involved, having it be about public's interest, having it be in the public safety's interest, have it be about research, plenty in all of those for them to at least have some conversation to say, hey, we would like to help you keep doing what you're doing. Obviously, there are people that are going to be negatively impacted by a refusal. How could we maybe make this work? Here's what we think you need to do better. Here's the details we would like to have about how it is that the craft growers who've already said they would like to be able to contribute to what you're doing, to make that happen. Can we have a conversation, Health Canada? Can you show me that you're at least the slightest bit motivated to not put all of these people that are going to be swung into harm's way? I can't just accept an email saying this is it, final notice, go away. Here, you have that, because I'm not good at that kind of thing.
You're not good at that thing?
I'm not going away. I mean, I guess it's your move next now, although I don't plan to just not send you some sort of a letter, but I have to be careful about how I do that because you've gotten me really angry now. These are my friends that I've been seeing every day for years. That, I'm going to have to explain to them that somehow, because of you at Health Canada, I can't help them anymore? Are you really going to try to make me do that? Because I can't do that. Can't do that. I'd rather fight you than them. I'd rather see you disappointed in me than those people disappointed in me. Why can't we all just get along?
Yeah.
Why don't you understand that the goals of what we're doing here are basically aligned with what it is supposed to be that the goals of Health Canada are supposed to have? Are we to the point where it doesn't matter that it's all corrupt and you don't need to provide any sort of a justification for your cruel and unusual and murderous decisions? Have we come to that point in Canada? I'd be very disappointed if this is the actual truth of it all. I mean, it seems to be on your end, that's what is going on. I'm talking to Health Canada here. It seems to be on your end that it's a done deal, that you have carte blanche, that it doesn't matter what sort of profound application we put before you, how much obvious it is that your decision is life and death, and a no means death, and lots of it for lots of the people that have already suffered too much and don't deserve to die simply because you refuse to allow access to that natural product, this plant that could save their lives. I know that's what it seems like you believe. We'll see what the courts have to say. Mm-hmm. We're coming up fast to October. we're going to have a little preliminary run through. You got to suck hard on that thing. I'll roll another one. So I don't know how seriously.
I don't know how to do suck hard if it wasn't in the
well,
thing.
you know, it's the pressure. It's the pressure.
Yeah, see,
it's
look.
the pressure.
In here it was too tight.
Yeah, too tight. That's what I say. It's the pressure. There's pressure in there.
Yeah.
I thought it was rolled improperly, and all that's to do with the pressure as well. How much pressure do you put on the weed that's in your rolling paper as you're rolling it up?
You don't.
So you have to the pressure.
You want to roll it loose.
And then there's the added pressure of being nervous about going up against the great Asia May Moon, who has rolled her fair of joints as well. I'm feeling the pressure all around.
Get some tips from Scully.
Oh, I will. You betcha. I'll be leaning heavily. He'll be in my corner.
He'll be in your car.
So that when we bounce him back off the rungs there, and the whistle blows, and it's time for a break between rounds, I can get in the corner there. He can put the towel on me and pat me down and give me and say, "Okay, buddy. Okay, champ. You can get in there. You can do this. You're only behind by about 10.
Yeah.
You'll be all right.
10 fingers, not 8.
That's true. So it should be good. It should be grueling. I'm sure the room will be filled with smoke and the low-hanging lights there and the ring and everything. And then there's Asia and I just, trying to feeling each other out there. And then away you go. Roll.
You have to hit it hard.
Boom. Done.
Hit it hot. Mary Jane
So
says.
this is all good practice for me.
Yeah. There you go.
I don't know what's going on.
Would you use my lighter again?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have a lighter.
I know. What'd you do with your lighter? Is it left it down the van?
Now I'm high again already. I am. I don't need any more.
Thank you, Miss D.
Thank you, Miss D.
That Romulan is very nice.
I was just going to smoke some more, but I'm sitting here thinking, why?
Okay, I will. Keep smoking.
Oh, man.
I'm wearing my favorite 420 shirt today.
Nice. Matches your license plate.
Yeah, it does.
Oh, we shouldn't have told him that.
Yeah. So this is 420 in Roman numerals.
And until Canada gets its act together, I feel like we're in this shirt.
Yeah.
Because I don't think we could be more on fire than with what's going on there.
Are we doing anything for the long weekend?
For what wouldn't be BC Bud Day?
Yeah.
So there's been little formal talks about BC Bud Day.
Okay.
So there will definitely be a BC Bud Day. There might just be 3 of them.
Okay.
I don't know for sure.
All right.
I'm thinking maybe Saturday's a good day.
Maybe. I don't know.
Saturday's a usual day.
Yeah.
Well, we could go Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
Oh, I see.
We could do all 3 days.
Yeah.
And we could adapt as we go. So if the mayor has set aside some extra funds to counter our anti-mayor protests, which is what BC Bud Day is going to be all about. We're very unhappy with Mayor Sim here, and we're going to be loud about it as we can be. Lots of signs and lots to say, and this is definitely a protest not just against the federal government and the cannabis laws and the Cannabis Act, but it's a protest against the mayor of Vancouver as well. So let's see if he wants to devote some public money to trying to thwart his opposition in this case. And we will be a very diverse, movable group. And I know the cops can be that way too. But we'll play a little game of cat and mouse with them if that's how it's going to be.
That's how it goes. We should
so if they decide to... Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of places we could do. Now, on a long weekend, it doesn't help much.
No.
I would do it on a weekday, and we very well likely will be going to City Hall at some point during this summer of discontent with the mayor.
Yeah.
And, taking over the corner of Cambie and 12th with a bunch of people doing a bit of street art. I mean, I don't mean stop the intersection. We're not going to stop people from going where they're going. People need to go where they're going. Besides, I don't want to just do our thing for like a dozen select people who get stuck in the intersection and can't get out. I want a flow of traffic going by. I want people to read the signs that we have there. I don't want to stop people from getting where they're going. And I want a number of people to be able to see just how unhappy we are with this version of a mayor in Vancouver here. So, that's going to happen. We may invite some other groups that are unhappy with the mayor as well to join us.
Should walk through Chinatown because we'll definitely get his eye if we're doing a little protest through Chinatown too.
You know, there's just so many options.
I know, eh?
There really are.
Yeah.
And so,
hey, why are
we're
these
not,
people protesting through our Chinatown, right? So
yeah, we're not stuck on any one particular thing that they're going to be able to shut down, like a big park that they could put a fence up
We should
around.
go to David Eady's office. He's here.
That might be a good idea too. We'll
right?
see.
Because he's here, and Mike Farnworth's office.
Yeah,
too,
I
right?
protested at his office a number of times before.
Yeah, I see. There's some ideas.
So yeah, this is kind of what's going to happen there. We'll start on Saturday, I'm sure. I am inviting all vendors to Thornton Park for Saturday to set up and have a good time with it. If that gets interrupted, well, we got plan B, C, D, and E ready to go. We will all discuss it amongst ourselves and get some sort of a consensus, as we go. And let's just have as much fun as we can doing all that. And all of it will be an opportunity to express ourselves with respect to how unhappy we are here in a world where we got ghosted by the media on Canada Day.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is a really sad, because you know what it is, right? We live in a system where we have this democratically elected government that are supposed to be satisfying the needs of their constituents, us, as best they can. And when they don't do that, when there's something else going on that's not right, well, that's why we're supposed to have an independent media. The media are there to hold the politicians' feet to the fire. It's a system that is extremely important to be existing within the system itself. Mm-hmm. This system of checks and balances between an independent media and the politicians is what can keep them honest, and what has been the result of the different scandals that have come up over the number of decades and all of that. Without an independent media that's willing to not tell the government narrative on things, it's willing to report on things that aren't in the government's favor, without that, they get to do what they want. They get to spend tens of thousands of dollars of taxpayer money to erect a fence around a public park simply to keep out the cannabis protesters, and then send in 50 cops to monitor and harass and threaten and intimidate all day long. And of course it was going to end up with some sort of an altercation.
Yep.
They provoked it. They made it happen. They forced it. And then when it happened, and we had dozens of armed, heavily armed, very tough police officers attacking ordinary citizens for wanting to have a march down the street, no media was there to report on that. And no media reported it on it since till now. That is disgusting. That was a huge, excessive amount of force.
Yeah, it was.
That was a criminal misuse of our public funds. That was a terrible abuse of power. And it goes unreported on Canada Day. Unreported.
But we got it out on social media.
We did.
We got it out on YouTube on the Rick Walker Show.
It's there.
It's a lot. I'm sure a few people shared that out there. So, yeah.
But the statement that is made by mainstream media ghosting that story is almost terrifying. It's like, are we living in communist Russia right now?
Yeah. Somebody's controlling the news.
Yeah, they certainly are controlling the news.
Yeah.
I had one reporter, I won't mention her because she means well, and she was going to report on it. They sent her on vacation during that long weekend.
Oh, really?
I had called her ahead of time and told her what was going on there.
Yeah.
Then afterwards, when there was no story anywhere, I messaged her back and I said, so what, no coverage at all about what happened there?
Yeah.
She goes, oh, I just got back from my little mini vacation. I wasn't aware what happened.
Oh, jeez.
So I sent her videos.
Yeah.
I gave her access to my page. She says, don't worry, I got your back on this. I'll be presenting this to my editor. Now, maybe it's still in works. Maybe they're going to come up with this big, long expose of what happened on Canada Day at the park. There's plenty of video, plenty of people to interview.
She hasn't messaged you back to say what the editor said? No, eh? No. Yeah, it's probably killed the story.
So today I sent her that response to Health Canada, because I said to her, "Oh, also, and by the way, Health Canada now says they're going to deny our application after almost 3 years." And so I decided that if she hadn't seen that I should send that to her so she'd have some context as to see what it is that Health Canada is saying no to.
Yeah.
So I sent that to her today. But I've been told straight point blank by mainstream reporters that they are not getting the stories out that need to get out, that they're being very muted by an ownership that is following the government line and doesn't want to step out of line. And I guess they're paid not to, or there's some other arrangement now. It's really not good at all for our democracy to not have that main check and balance between the media and the government. We also saw it with respect to the truckers.
Yes. Yeah. Where they took all their money and everything.
And you can see it. What are you doing over there?
You want something that's orange there?
No.
You have your keys.
Did you eat all your treats?
Yeah, you did.
You eat all your treats over here? I think you missed a couple.
He's talking to the cat, everybody.
The imaginary cat.
Yeah, sure. He's not just talking to himself or his imaginary friend.
Everybody out there, unless they're completely new to the show,
yes,
they're familiar with the cats.
But not familiar with you just talk to the cat
Just
off
randomly
camera,
talking
right?
to the cat. Yeah. It's kind of like trying to combine the beauty of radio and video, right? You know, radio, you can say whatever you want. You can talk about anything you want. That's in the room with you. You can tell them you're wearing clothes when you're not.
This is what I have to do. I have to ban this guy.
Oh, what's he doing?
He's got toxic dispensary.
Toxic dispensary?
Yeah, he's advertising a place.
Don't advertise on the show.
Yeah.
It gets us in trouble. Get off the table. Oh my goodness. Cats are amazing. From my perspective, they're both good and bad.
Yeah.
From their perspective, they're just being
trouble.
cats.
Yeah.
It was on the table.
You read on the table
know
again,
better.
right? Yeah. You've been trying to teach them that for a while.
My cats back in the day when I had a family and stuff, my cats would never be caught on the dining room table.
Really, eh?
Or the kitchen counters. Never.
Huh.
They got it early on and they knew it, and that was fine. They could go on any other surface, but not that.
Some people use a squirt
These
bottle.
cats, I was doing pretty good, I think, although I don't know what happens when I turn my back.
Well, the cats play, right?
But then I got your son's cat that
Yeah.
I've been looking after since before Christmas time.
Yeah.
And he's a bad boy sometimes.
He's a bad boy.
As soon as I walk out of the room, he's on the table. And he knows it too. And as soon as he sees me, see him on the table, he's gone. He'll look at me like, oh, I know I'm in trouble. Yeah, you're in trouble. Stay off of the table. It's not hard.
Wow.
There's other things to climb on.
Marie says it's her birthday today. She's 72.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Marie.
Wow.
Happy birthday to you.
There you go. Wow. You really belted it out today.
Well, every chance I get, you know.
I'm sure she's smiling on the other side of that
You
screen.
never know. And anybody else whose birthday it is today, you're all included in that. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, everybody.
There must be a number of people whose birthday it is today, you know.
I don't know. Mary Jane said happy birthday to her.
It's all about math.
Yeah, it's all about math. Yeah.
Now, you got to recognize there's only three types of people in the world: those people that are good at math and those people that aren't.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'm in the latter category there. But it occurs to me that there's some 8 billion people on the planet,
So somebody else has got to have a birthday.
and there's only 365 and a quarter days in a year.
Yeah,
So a few people have to be having birthdays every day.
probably.
Every day.
Yeah. The minority.
And on a balancing note, there's probably 250,000 or 500,000 people didn't wake up this morning.
There could be. Yeah.
That happens
You just
every
never
day too.
know. And then there's a whole bunch born today
A whole
too.
bunch born,
Right.
slightly
So-
more
so
born
it's their birthday
than
today,
those
too.
going away.
It's their birthday today
It's
too.
all their birthday today
Right.
too. I should just sing happy birthday every day to all the newborns and all
There you
the
go.
borns on this day.
Just have a coffee and go
Not
outside
one
and
by
yell out,
one.
happy birthday!
Roxanne, my former girlfriend, had her little son there who was just priceless.
Yeah.
And he would get up Christmas morning, And he'd say, "Merry Christmas, everybody!"
Every day?
No, just on
Christmas Day. Okay.
But it was a priceless thing to see. You know,
Yeah.
kids are so great.
They love Christmas.
Everything we do needs to be for kids. You know, this is all about the kids. It's about the kid in you, for one thing, because the kid in you should never die. Don't ever let it die. Always be curious. Always be amazed. Always, want to learn more and have that joyful pursuit that children have. That's the main catalyst for life, for sure. But the children who are going to be adults in the future, this should be our focus as a society. They should be the most thought about people is them, and we should give them the best start that we can. I mean, any society. I'm not racist. I'm not saying the Germans should strive to have their children be better than the Swedes or the Swiss or anything like that, but of course they should, and we all should. And we all should have all of our children try to be better than we were, and as best as they can be, because that's what you want as a parent, is for your child to have a life where they feel good.
Yeah.
And if they're setting good goals and they're attaining those goals, and then they're feeling good, and that's all you want as a parent for your kids. So let everything that we do be for the children. And we got to stop what's going on with many of our children ending up on the streets, living in poverty, homelessness, mental illness, and addiction as best we can. We need to stop it at the source as best we can. So let's be clear in our educational campaigns, and let's give parents all the tools that we possibly can to deal with their anger, which happens when you're dealing with children. Your children scare you lots of times. They're engaged in behaviors that you at some level, maybe you consciously understand it, or maybe it's just a subconscious belief, but you're afraid for your children if they continue down that path of whatever it might be. So parents don't know how to deal all the time with modifying children's behaviors in ways that are safer for them. And so they get angry, and then that's how they modify it in many cases. They scare the hell out of children to try to prevent behaviors that they think might be dangerous to them. And that's seldom the way to go. Adults spend a lot of time trying to unravel all of those things that happen during childhood. And if we could give parents and society a real head start by identifying the things that work and the things that don't work, and making all of that clear for people, because nobody wants to raise a dysfunctional human. We all want to raise functional humans that are independent, that are getting what it is that they want out of life and being productive. So the government, if any role that they have, would be to give all of us the right tools to be able to do that. And so many families start out with no tools whatsoever. Just young people, all of a sudden they're pregnant and they're having a baby and they have no idea how to deal with that baby. Now, thankfully, we live in an age where you can find most of that stuff if you want to look for it and all the rest of it. But a lot of people don't know that they have a problem, so they don't think they need to go and find a solution for the problem. The child does something they don't like, they get mad at the child, they hit the child, whatever they do, it's what happened to them. They don't think a lot about it. In fact, you really don't think much about parenting until you're faced with parenting.
Yeah.
And then you don't think much about it, you just do. You do what it is, you model that which you learned.
Yeah.
In some cases, you're going to be just like your parents. In other cases, you're going to be the opposite, because you're going to, I'll never parent like that, And so many of these strategies aren't what's best for human beings.
No.
And people want what's best for their kids. So government role would be to make it really obvious, clear, easy for everybody to get it. If you're having a baby, here are some real serious guidelines about keeping your boundaries, making sure they're reasonable. The things that you learn as a parent after you've had a few, should be easily made apparent to people that are young parents. And like I say, that information is all out there. There's a slew of books now. There was a few, when my kids were young, but now there's a whole bunch of books and digital stuff and online and the rest of it. But it's important, and we're not succeeding yet.
Yeah.
There's still a lot of problems that are happening with people that lead them down paths of mental illness, poverty, homelessness, addiction, and all those other types of things. So let's start to do something at that level as best we can. And then we're going to miss a bunch, as always. There's going to be child sexual abuse, no matter how much you try to explain to parents that that's not good for the kid, whatever it is. You know, and many other things. I mean, there's traumas beyond that in no one's control. Children lose their parents.
Yeah.
Children witness very traumatic events that they don't have the tools to deal with. There's a whole bunch of reasons why people get traumatized. So let's, as a society, make sure that we have a lot of mechanisms in place that aren't costly. Because if a person is not functioning properly, they seldom have a lot of financial resources.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So let's make it easy. It doesn't need to be that expensive. We don't need to pay psychologists $300 an hour to psychoanalyze people. You know, let's just get to the nub of things that make sense, that we can pass on to people that can really make their lives a lot better and the lives of their children and their families a lot better. So we can do that. And for those that, you know, fall between the cracks, that do end up suffering in those ways, man, oh man, you gotta have low barrier access cannabis, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you gotta have that stuff.
Like this stuff. Yeah.
Like that stuff is, you know, and not at $10 a gram, not at $1 a gram.
Yeah.
I mean, this is pretty good cannabis.
Yeah.
This is grown by connoisseurs indoors with a whole bunch of expensive equipment, and likely should be $1 a gram.
Yeah.
$1 a gram would be $480 a pound. The economists that have done the math will tell you that an indoor grow room, a modest indoor grow room, should provide cannabis at about $125 a pound. And that might be low, you know, factoring in for inflation and factoring in for some people are really going to buy the best. You know, so maybe it goes up to $250 or $300 a pound. But that's still a lot of money, you know, for a plant.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's farmers out there that are growing heirloom tomatoes.
Yeah.
You know, that's not easy to grow. They're growing other things for connoisseur markets as well. None of them are getting $300 a pound for any of it. So that's a pretty big dollar there.
Right now.
At $300 a pound to the farmer, you could put that out at $1 a gram. That doesn't mean that it needs to be put out at $1 a gram. You can sell that for $25 a gram if you want in any of the high-end stores. No problem. Charge whatever you want.
Yeah.
But weed of this quality could still be grown and sold for $480 a pound.
Yeah.
And everybody's still making really good money on that. And at $1 a gram, it's probably affordable for just about anybody. That's a really good weed.
Yeah,
1 gram is going to be
great.
a couple of good joints.
Yeah.
Or whatever, however else you want to divide it up. If you're using a one-hitter pipe, a gram, this is probably about a gram.
Yeah.
So I'm not
Oh,
still
yeah.
right handy, but that's probably about a
If we
gram.
smoked one joint, there's another joint rolled, and that's probably the
Well, I
third
just
joint,
randomly
so
pulled some
I
buds
would
out.
say maybe a little bit more than a gram, but yeah. Yeah.
I don't see a scale anywhere, so we don't worry about it.
That's right, yeah.
But, you know, in this, if you've got a one-hitter pipe, you know, and pretty much...
Well, that would be less than a gram, that pile. I would say that for sure, because you can't make 3 joints out of that. Even 2 big ones would be still, yeah.
And that's a pretty big-sized pipe hit, you know, one hitter.
Yeah,
A one hitter would get you 3 or 4 good hits.
we can see it, so.
That's good. So I'm just saying for $1,
Yeah.
you know, for $1.
You pay $1 for that.
No, you pay $1 for the whole thing.
Okay.
And you'd get 7 or 8 of these.
Yeah.
You'd get probably 3 modest-sized joints out of a gram.
Or 2 good ones.
2 good ones.
That's right,
you
yeah.
know.
2 good ones or 3 skinny ones.
And those joints, you know, unless you're using for serious medical issues and you're a heavyweight, the average person,
Yeah.
a couple of good, you don't need the whole joint if you're smoking it to your head. If you're smoking it with somebody else, you could smoke half that joint and put it out. I mean, certainly with what you and I, this weed that you and I just smoked there, those 3 or 4 puffs that I took on that, man.
You're feeling it.
Ah, wow.
I feel it, and I'm a more seasoned smoker than you are.
And I'd already been puffing on something else ahead of time, but I felt that. So, you know, the market will certainly bear. Basically, I'd like to say $10 a gram because that's what it's been forever, and that is kind of what the market bears. But that doesn't allow the daily users and the poor people to get it really in ways that they need it. So the market could bear $1 a gram probably, which is still a hell of a lot of money, almost $500 a pound. And then there's the lesser ones. I mean, we've got some Okanagan Gold right now.
Yeah.
Perfectly good weed, grown outdoors.
Yeah.
You can grow weed outdoors for cheap.
No lights. Yeah.
No
You get the
lights.
sun.
I mean, you can fertilize if you want, but you don't need to. I've seen some amazing crops out there as I travel across Canada.
Yeah.
People that are just letting it grow and being there at bud time, and beautiful crystally buds on that stuff.
At home, I use my fish water.
And there you go.
Right.
I mean, here
there, that doesn't cost me anything.
on
My
the
fish
coast, you
loves
can
it.
use ocean water.
You use salt water.
Salt water, 20-1.
Really? Eh?
20-1 salt water is perfectly
Wow.
good for your plants. The salt is good for them too at that ratio.
Okay.
So there's lots of inexpensive ways to fertilize outdoor plants if you want. If you're growing to scale, of course, you're going to probably use a little more, but still not that much. Cannabis has basically its own built-in pesticides, but there are birds that will feed on the seeds when the seeds are happening. If you're growing seeds, and it's hard to grow outdoor without having some seeds, but you can do that too. That's easy enough to do, especially in hybrid greenhouses and things like that. So the government just needs to allow this stuff into the marketplace. That's all.
I agree.
For the government to say that there's only one way to produce good cannabis, and that's through all of these regulations that we're imposing on people, and we're going to take all of these taxes for no good reason off of all of these different levels along the way, that excludes the ability of just average family farmer to grow a crop and bring it to market and have its value determined and be paid accordingly. Why can't they do that? There is no logical reason for this. The problem, I think, is that the government has not acknowledged the truth of what's happening here.
Yeah.
They've somehow, through the back door, legalized cannabis for Canadians to be able to have stores to walk into. And if you're lucky, blessed, or an insider, and financially set, you can maybe get a license to be a producer of cannabis as well. But to eliminate with public money through the enforcement of the criminal law and law enforcement, the competition on that lousy monopoly scheme is so wrong. Like, wow, is that ever wrong? And Canadians need to wrap their heads around that. I think law enforcement needs to wrap their heads around that we've got a government out of control that is in contempt of the populace with respect to the vulnerable, the poor people that really the government should be mostly involved with trying to help. There's a contempt for those people going on at the highest levels of government, that they're criminally misusing public funds in running this protection racket of police resources to try to prevent other people from growing for the marketplace. That's absurd.
It is.
This is an abuse of power that really needs to be addressed somehow. I don't know why it isn't. I mean, you would think that every police chief out there in Canada would be having a look at this, and in fact, you would think that should be part of their job, is to, on a regular basis, scrutinize what it is that these public servants are doing. Mm-hmm. Like, aren't they in a position of power and influence that means that they have to be held to a higher standard?
Yeah, well, I think so.
Isn't there room for investigations on governments? Well, I'll tell you, that doesn't exist provincially or within the city policing. So, Vancouver City Police, not within their realm of ability to be able to even investigate what the federal government is doing.
No,
so how about that?
And there's no ombudsman for the Health Canada people either. You can't complain about what they're doing to you because there's nobody to complain to. Yeah.
So the RCMP are the only ones that can scrutinize what goes on at the higher levels of political office in this country. And where are they? Doesn't their special crimes division, their white collar crimes division, there should be a separate special government division? Not that I'm a fan of the RCMP. I think they are a corrupt organization, and that's what I'm saying. Where are they in all of this?
Yeah.
Because to me, the average person, now maybe I'm not all that educated enough in the ways of law, but I think I had a good enough handle on it to be able to judge an abuse of power when I see it. I think I'm close enough to this issue to recognize that there's some real criminal misuse of public funds going on here Mr. Benoit Seguin and now Mr. Dave or Mike Pellman, whatever his name is, at Health Canada there, having his team of people working diligently every single day for almost 3 years to come up with a no that's going to cost people their lives and their quality of life. Yeah, there's some serious things wrong here going on. That's for sure. Man, oh man.
Gazer says he's still paying $425 for an ounce of weed in New Zealand that Canada grew. That was grown in Canada.
In Canada.
$425 an ounce for medical cannabis here. That
So what is that, Gazer? Can we do the math there? Somebody, like I say, there's 3 types of people. Remember? I think that's about $6,000 or something like that for
So,
that.
425 times 16,
Oh,
right?
you know, yeah, well, maybe more than that.
Okay, well,
I'm not even going to try.
Where's your
Hurts
calculator?
my brain to even try.
Oh, he doesn't even have a calculator.
I do so.
Where?
It's simple. You got to get in the right area for sure. But,
I look for C, under C, and I don't see it.
well, where's there you go? Right there. See?
Oh, there. Oh, that's it. All right. So,
What are we going to do?
425 times 16
425
times 16
and 6.
times
What did I? Oh, I hit down there for some reason.
16. There you go. Now
There's
he's
also
equal.
only 3 types of people. Those
6,000.
that can operate their cell phones properly and those that can't. So yeah, it's $6,800. I was right. Well, $7,000 for a simple pound of plant material grown in Canada by a large licensed producer who's growing to scale, which means they've got tens of thousands of plants, all growing like under one greenhouse roof, and then more than that. You know
But
that?
no, I was just thinking that we always read articles about these cannabis companies in Canada going bankrupt or they're losing profits, but they're selling an ounce of weed for $425 in New Zealand, and it's medical weed.
So that's a really good question.
Yeah, why
How
are they
do you
losing
use-
so much money?
How do you? Well, they didn't lose money on that pound.
That's only
That's
an
for
ounce.
sure.
Yeah, that's only an ounce.
Well, I know,
Yeah,
but they
right.
probably sent it in the form of a pound originally to whoever. I have no idea. Okay, so they didn't lose money on that ounce.
Yeah, what's going on here?
And how many other gazers are there out there in New Zealand and other parts of the world? We, those of us who have been paying attention, we always knew that these big licensed producers for cannabis, their real goal was the international market.
They're misdirecting us. They're saying that they're not making any money in Canada, right? So that we see that, but we don't ask or know about what's going on behind unless we get people who comment like Gazer.
Oh man, they got
Right.
so many levels of deceit going on here.
Yeah. So, we're not making any money on the Canadian stock market or on the Canadian cannabis or whatever, but they don't tell you about what they're
How
doing in
valuable.
Mexico or Amsterdam or New Zealand or whatever, right?
And like I say, all of them had their eye to the international markets from the beginning. The prices are saying. You sent me an article I didn't read enough to talk about on the
Yeah.
show. I don't know his name, but there's some guy who's the real big mover and shaker in
For the
in the
kind of
Canadian legal industry here,
Yeah.
and he's the one who's setting standards and all the rest of that kind of stuff there. You know, and I'm sure all those people kind of like it. You know.
those people do. Just like we like you.
Somebody's got to like me.
on our side.
There's somebody for everybody out there. That's what I believe, Anyway, it's how much of that is taxed?
Well, lots of it.
How much of that $420 an ounce is going to? And it must be $425, right?
It's $425.
Yeah, because in New Zealand they're not cool enough to have. Their government is not cool enough to have that ounce at $420.
Yeah.
Here in Canada.
That's okay.
If they could, that's what they would do in Canada here, because they try to do that kind of stuff all the time. But how much of that $425 is being given to governments at how many levels?
Yeah.
To cover taxes.
The New Zealand
how
government.
many people along the way have had a piece of that? From the original transportation from Canada to the wholesaler into that marketplace there,
Yeah.
to the retailer, to the pharmacist. There's a whole bunch of people wanting a piece of that. It's just disgusting.
It is.
It's disgusting that so many people think they need to make money off this plant. And the result is that the end consumer, who's going to pay $425 for an ounce of cannabis because they must really need it, right? So we're talking about people that are going to pay that much, typically not just because they're rich. I don't think Gazer's rich and that's why he's paying that money.
No.
I'll bet you Gazer's got some sort of a medical condition
Yeah.
that makes it so that he really needs this stuff.
Yeah.
And he's got to just like buck up and pay it, like, you know,
Yeah,
like so many people do with so many other prescriptions. Like, this is what's obscene about the whole pharmaceutical industry, is that some of their stuff, for people that really need it for really serious issues, is so expensive that you're got to mortgage your house, you got to borrow from relatives. Like, to stay alive on some of those pharmaceuticals is just disgustingly expensive. And I don't believe for a moment it needs to be that way, especially when you look at the profits being taken by the main players in these pharmaceutical industries. But then we all know there's no such thing as an ethical billionaire.
No.
That's kind of impossible. I mean, maybe some of them are trying to prove otherwise. There's some rich philanthropists out there and
You mean
families.
Bruce Wayne wasn't an ethical billionaire?
For the most part, it's pretty. When you've got $100 billion, it's pretty easy to give away a couple billion.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
you know, really,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
it's not a great sacrifice.
No.
So,
it's not.
you know, you still got, and they still have these world's billionaires. They still have billions of dollars that they're keeping to themselves and their families, even though they're giving away lots of money, just not lots of money comparatively to what they actually have. And I don't mind, you know, calling them people out.
Yeah.
Like, if you got billions of dollars, you don't need all those billions of dollars. If you gave away everything but $1 billion, you'd still have way too much for you to ever properly use in your lifetime within any sort of reason, and probably for 7 generations down the road. $1 billion. Oh my God. So when you start hearing about people that got $70 billion and $200 billion and stuff like that, they are unethical people in a world of starvation, in a world of corrupt government, in a world of all these things that are going on here. They are very corrupt people, so I don't mind calling them out.
And then they're saying right now that Mary Jane is saying that in 2015 the government of Canada only allowed 6 pesticides. Now we have over 27 on their government weed that they're selling. 27 they allow from 6 to 27 in 8 years.
Wouldn't you like to be a manufacturer of pesticide that got your name on the official list? Eh?
Yeah, because that means the government's buying
There
from
must
you.
be a fair bit of dollars in there because of all the cannabis that's being produced for anybody that sells any of those chemicals.
Yeah.
I wonder how much lobbying those chemical companies do to try to get their chemicals included in that.
Probably a lot.
Why am I so cynical, Glenn?
I don't know.
Why? I don't know why I'm so cynical.
And I guess they can charge $4.25 an ounce in New Zealand because I don't think they allow you to grow personally. If you need cannabis, it has to be a medical license, I believe, and then you
Now,
have to pay.
I believe I met a person here
Yeah.
in a very synchronistic, very spiritual night a few months ago who said that he had a grow license in New Zealand.
No, really, eh?
Like, maybe it was Australia.
Maybe it was
I
Australia.
think it was Australia.
Well, I'm sure Gazer will be able to answer us.
I appreciate your input,
He's got to type it in, and he's going to send it. It's going to come from New Zealand and hit our screen.
A roving reporter in New Zealand there.
He said he would grow my own, but I'm going to court for that, so have to buy the shit. Okay, all right, that's what it is. Wow, eh? So they throw you in court if you're growing your own.
We are living in an upside down, backwards, inside out world.
Yeah.
I really hope that everybody's paying attention to what's going on, what we're talking about on this show all the time. It's repetitive, I get that, because this is the battle that we're fighting here. And it's important that everybody get it, that we really do get it, that this isn't right, this is completely wrong, and it's costing us, humans, lives, billions if not trillions of dollars, respect for law enforcement and government. It's costing people's health. It's costing people's ability to have a livelihood at all because of the expensive things that are going on around here. All these things are very intertwined and connected. The amount of money that they're wasting on the cannabis issue here is money that could easily be used for a whole bunch of really good things.
Yeah.
And that's just a drop in the bucket of how the impact of this now over-regulation of cannabis, and we can call it legalization, and maybe you can stop saying it's illegal, except it is. There's legal cannabis in Canada and there's illegal cannabis in Canada, and the government is continuing to waste millions and millions of dollars on trying to get the illegal cannabis out of the marketplace to protect the government's own interests.
It's only illegal because they say so.
I know.
All right, we've had grown cannabis for over 100 years and been buying from our neighbor or somebody else's friend or something for a long time, and nobody's ever died. All right, nobody's ever.
You know, coffee was illegal in Russia for a couple hundred years.
Yeah, booze was illegal at one time.
Booze was illegal in Canada here for quite a while. You know what needs to be illegal? The ability of public servants to make stuff like that illegal.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
This should be one of the main areas of concern, and yet it's something that most people just take for granted. They have their own issues with government. They complain a little bit about that, but as far as overall, how are we being governed and is it acceptable? Most people accept it, take it for granted that it's just the way it is, and nothing we can do about it. Blah blah blah.
Well, if we keep all saying that, then nothing will ever get done.
And
right?
we are living in crucial times here.
Yeah.
The government's ability to lock us down and survey us is becoming almost absolute.
Yeah.
Anybody carrying one of these is probably under surveillance just by Big Brother's data collection computer.
An AI.
An AI of some sort is monitoring.
Yeah, more likely, right?
You know, but they have the capacity to do that. When you sign up for your cell phone, you're giving this thing permission to record at any time.
Oh.
Audio or video.
Really?
At any time.
Well,
That's in that small printing that you're accepting.
All
When
right.
you accept that, that's what happens.
Oh, I never
when
seen
you
that.
sign on to Facebook,
Yeah.
you're giving them ownership of any pictures that you post there and all the stories that you tell there. They're all owned by Facebook at that point.
And you.
Probably, and you.
Yes, because you're the author.
You would think.
Yes.
You would hope.
Yes.
I'm not sure. I don't.
Yeah, they get a
you know that
they get a copy of it.
So we talked about
don't know,
all these mainstream media outlets all sharing the same narrative on these really important stories where other sides of those stories should be being told. Independent journalists are in the mainstream should be reporting on the other sides of these main issues. But what you see is repeated over and over again in all the mainstream media, that same narrative of whatever that current story that's in the news is. Exact same phraseology and everything. And then if you look into it, you realize that all of the mainstream media outlets, the main shareholders are either Blackstone or Vanguard.
Yes. Yeah, we did that research a little while ago, didn't we? Yeah. Yeah, some really big
So
companies.
these super huge financial giants owned by the richest of people in the world are the main investors in all of the mainstream media companies and all of the energy companies. And on and on and on it goes. So the world that we have right now is primarily the world shaped for us by the real financial top level people. I don't want to call them elite because I don't like that word for them. They should be scumbags because this world that they're shaping here. And here we are on one of the fringe areas of their influence where we're pushing hard because of the dynamics of the situation, and we're able to expose just how corrupt things are. That our federal government's Department of Health is not able to do the right thing, and I'm telling you the reason is because of the influence of the financial scumbags at the top levels who have control of all of this. That this system of legalization for cannabis was structured to support and satisfy their desires for their monopolization of the cannabis industry.
Yeah.
And that's what's going on here. So yeah, I think it's a really big story that exposes just this small aspect of how great the corruption is throughout all of our society. I mean, if they can be this corrupt over this option to help with this public health crisis, all about money,
Yeah.
then man, oh man, oh man, it is bad.
Guys, they say some rich people can grow. They can get a license. There's about 34 licensed grower. The only thing is that when you grow it here, it has to go to Australia to be dried, and then it gets sent back.
That's a good idea.
Wow.
That's a good
There are
idea.
lots of people making money along
Well, they
the
got
way.
more sun in Australia.
Oh, do they?
And heaters and stuff.
Yeah, well, so we
New
can-
Zealand doesn't have any heaters and stuff. And
Sure.
I don't think the sun ever shines there.
Oh,
or
it
something.
does.
So it makes,
Especially in the
it
southern
makes
part.
perfect sense.
I
It
learned
makes
that from
perfect sense to ship pounds and pounds and pounds of a plant over to some other continent so that they can dry it for you because
That's
they know
right.
how.
Yeah.
Nobody in New Zealand could learn how.
No.
So, you got to get the Australians to do that for you.
I know
wonder-
a couple of dry rooms
Oh, man,
here in
if
Canada.
only we could know. If only we could know what's behind that one, eh?
Yeah.
Which friends of the New Zealand government own plant drying systems in Australia? What's the contract for that? Who
Yeah.
got that contract? Who are these people? And why would they ever add all of that shipping cost and all of that carbon into the environment to ship a bunch of stuff over the ocean
Yeah.
to be dried, to be sent back,
Yeah.
to be sold at a much higher price, you can only imagine, than what would happen if they had dried it at home?
That's crazy.
People of the world unite. We are not the morons they think that we are,
Yeah,
unless
this is
we
so
allow
hard.
for all this to continue forever. We can't. It's not, it can't. I don't know what to suggest. Just don't take it anymore. Just don't buy their shit.
Yeah.
Just, constantly write letters. Be a thorn in the ass. I know you're going to get yourself arrested. In some places, you're going to get yourself killed. So I don't know what to advocate for. I only know that here we can do this much. So this I'm doing. But god damn, somebody's got to be, able to solve all of this. Somebody, I'm going to get so angry coming up. I can feel it. That, we'll see what happens in the court case.
Yeah, it's coming up.
It's brewing, man.
Coming up.
Like,
We got a
what are
couple
we
more months,
supposed to
right?
do,
August
you
and
know?
September. Yeah, October. Yeah. There
We'll
we go.
see what the courts say in October.
Yeah.
Is there a possibility of relief? I don't
We don't know. We want
I
relief.
said,
yes,
I've
but
asked the question
will we get it?
of my legal people, what to do next. On the one hand, I'm told go for a civil injunction. I think that's a good idea. I have to continue to explore a little more about why, on the criminal side, the lawyer thinks it's not a good idea. I need to understand why that would be the case, because as far as I'm led to believe, you can't get satisfaction from the criminal court with respect to the type of injunction that would be necessary to allow us to maintain what we're doing here.
Yeah.
But we'll see where all that goes. There's no mad rush on that, so that's good. I got a little bit of time to figure that out. Meanwhile, we're preparing for the criminal court case, where we're going to really do a good job of mopping the floor with the Crown.
Hopefully the media will cover some of it.
I'm not counting on it, but I'm told that they will. We'll see.
Tell that lady friend. Tell her not to go on vacation.
Oh, we will. We will.
Tell her not to go on
Leading
vacation.
up to to our court case there, we're going to do our best to get the media to pay attention and what all this means here. By then we'll be closing in on 7 years of answering this public health crisis that's still going on to this day. We're in our 8th year.
And you know what? In 2 days marks, right?
2
July
days.
20th with last year was when you guys got arrested.
No.
Yeah, that's the way it came up on my
It was in May.
memories.
No, it was in May.
Or
July
there was
20th,
something.
nothing
Yeah,
happened.
I have it in my memory, so I'll show you after
You'll
the
have
show.
to show me after the show. But,
Yeah, something
it
about
was,
July 20th.
it
Yeah,
was May, I think it was May 11th when we were arrested, when they came and took the RV away. I don't recall anything of great significance happening July 20th.
I don't know. It came up in my memories, and it said July 20th on it. Well, maybe it was just maybe it was a protest or something that we were doing.
We do that.
Yes, and for that, I was just reading the words and it said around.
Okay, well, you'll have to show me after the show.
We'll do that.
So, no, it was in May, and that's a long time ago now, maybe June, July. So we're 14 months. They were 7 months in their investigation. So there's 21 months. You know, it's been almost 2 years since they decided to spend a bunch of money.
Yeah, on you.
On trying to Project Blaze, which involved undercover surveillance and powerful lens cameras perched in all kinds of different places, taking pictures, but no interrogation of the main suspect.
No, they were just giving it away. They were just giving them away. They couldn't be secret if they.
They could have come and asked me,
Yeah.
Are you selling cannabis? That's what we do, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not going to lie.
You don't need to ask me. You told lots of cops that you're selling drugs when you walk by. So why we're not asking a question. You can ask their fellow officers.
It's in my application to Health Canada, okay?
Yeah.
Our application to Health Canada is not just for the CSP to be able to give away cannabis the way that we've been doing. It's for the Healing Wave to be in that collaboration so that we can have a storefront, because that is incredibly important. And what we didn't even know at the time is that selling of cannabis was going to be incredibly important to a whole different demographic of people.
Yeah, yeah.
The people that are going to come and join a program to get free edibles, to get off of opioids, are not all of the people addicted to those opioids. Many of those people are secret users, don't want to be identified, aren't going to put their hand up and say, yeah, include me in your program there, I'm a drug user. They need discreet dispensing of high-dose edibles. So once we had a real good handle on that, that also changed our stance. For Health Canada to say, well, we'll let you do the giveaway, but we won't let you do the selling. That no longer became an option for us, because now we had hundreds of people in that other demographic coming to see us on a regular basis, using it to get off of the drugs, and reporting that that's what had happened, and now they're just using those high-dose edibles. So, I am not standing alone here. I'm the one who's charged, but I represent all of these people that will be greatly affected depending on what my decision is. If I was to just plead guilty, fold up, and go away, that is going to have direct negative impact on a whole bunch of people that I know personally. So this is not me making a decision for me. This is me needing to make decisions that are what's right for all of those people that are counting on me. Mm-hmm. So all the people that need low barrier access, for those people, they're counting on me to continue down the road to do everything we can to get it. So, what choice do I have? That's what I'd like to say. I would like some, crown attorney or a judge or somebody to come and talk to me and let me impress upon them the situation that I'm in here. So maybe they would have some sympathy or something. Come on up, baby. It's okay. Come on up. Come on up and say hi. Yeah, I know you love it. Yeah, there you are.
There you go. See, he's popping in, get a camera.
See, I told you there's real cats here besides the imaginary ones.
Hey, it was 5:30. I should go back to doing my producing stuff.
It's just about time.
Yeah. So
I've been beating this dead horse
see you
again.
Next week is correct because I can't come this week because I'm moving.
Oh.
Yes.
Tomorrow's not working this week.
Yeah, you didn't give
I
me
was
a
going to
day
ask
either.
you.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to ask you.
Yeah, next Wednesday is great. So, but no, tomorrow I'm going to do all the final boxing up and stuff. Then Thursday morning I move. So, all right.
Well, good luck with that. Have as much fun as you can with it. Recognize that there's opportunities.
The place is smaller than what we were moving out of. So
I get all of that.
Yeah,
recognize that there are things you can't understand yet that may be on the positive side of the ledger.
Hopefully.
You never know. Anything powerful like moving or things like that always have pros and cons to them.
Yeah.
Many of them you can't know until you get in there, for sure.
Yeah.
Maybe lightning's going to hit the house you're moving out of shortly after you move out or something. You'll be,
wow! Wait till
universe save me.
My landlord's gone and the new owner will take over.
Yeah, of course.
My landlord's awesome.
Well, of course.
Yeah. All right, we'll see you next week, sir.
See you next week. Ah, yes. Meanwhile, there's a new article out that very nicely sums up some of the advantages to cannabis with respect to mental health issues. There's been a lot of myths out there, primarily because we're living in a century of prohibition and now gross over-regulation. It goes beyond prohibition because prohibition resulted in basically a war. The war on drugs has primarily been a war on cannabis, and it's primarily been a war on cannabis consumers, although certainly many of the providers have been attacked during this war as well. But this is a war on people. It's a war on people who, in many cases, are searching for ways to help them in their lives. Many people, doesn't take long, some at birth, but for most of us, if you get in and talk personally with somebody and they share with you their personal medical history and such, most people have some stuff going on. And so those people are looking for answers, and cannabis is a good answer for a lot of that kind of stuff. So many people are targeted when there's an attempt to prohibit something like cannabis. And one of the biggest casualties in any war is the truth. And you can certainly look back on this war against cannabis and cannabis consumers and see that there have been a lot of lies. There have been a lot of myths that serve that side of things that wants to justify and maintain the prohibitions. So the truth has been hard to get at for a long time. They can continue, and they have all through all of this, continued to finance targeted low quality studies and twist them in ways that show that you can justify what they're doing there. I mean, remember, after all, that it was a free country that was proud of their freedom, and they were the ones who were going to now allow for the criminal sanctions against free people having access to this plant. And some of the lies that were told to defend that were all about mental illness, that ingesting the vapors from this particular plant would result in uncontrolled chaos, violence, mental illness, a whole bunch of things like that. And so along the way, there were, like I say, low value, targeted, privately paid for studies that would sort of reinforce some of that stuff. I mean, for the early 60 or so years that they were banging that drum, most of it was being played out in the newspapers, where William Randolph Hearst would be regularly writing stories about the mental illness that would occur from people that were smoking a reefer, and then would lead to the violent crime that they committed. And so these stories were all over the mainstream media, and there wasn't really much of a need for government-funded studies to find out whether or not that was true or not. It was in the media, it was true, people believed it, hook, line, and sinker, didn't really need to come up with any substantial studies to show that that was wrong. But as time progressed and people became more sophisticated, and there was some of that independent journalism, where people were, trying to test the waters about these particular laws and whether or not they were justified, and well, as it turns out, it didn't look like they were at all. So studies were entered into at great expense over the course of a few years, both in Canada and the United States, and the Schaefer Commission in the United States determined that cannabis, shouldn't have criminal sanctions used to curtail its use. In fact, most of these stories that were told about causing mental illness were just lies and reefer madness. That it doesn't cause insanity and violence, but it causes, a little bit of humor, calmness. You might want to go to sleep. Maybe you're hungry. but certainly nothing that should ever have justified the criminal sanctions being used against it. And here in Canada, with our Senate report, similar conclusions. There shouldn't be criminal sanctions used against people involved in cannabis at any level. And that was back in the 60s. So since the 60s, starting with a trickle and ending with a flood, and the real flood is yet to happen still, but no, man, you go on PubMed and you Google cannabis positives, and you'll see that it is beneficial in so many ways for so many things, including people suffering from mental illness. THC in its sativa form, probably not recommended, probably counterintuitive to some people that would have schizophrenia and other things, although not a bad tool for bringing those things out, and as diagnostic information can be gleaned from that. But there are strains and genres of cannabis and forms of cannabis that can help with just a slew of different things, especially CBD, and especially CBD with respect to many issues in regards to mental illness. So a lot of lies have been told for a long time, and a lot of mainstream society just bought those lies because, you know, you trust your government, you trust your doctor, you trust what the media is saying. But it's been a long road now of another 60 years or more of what started as a trickle and has ended up in quite the mainstream large body of information, peer-reviewed studies and the rest of it, refuting almost all of the negative claims made prior about why cannabis should not be something that people should use. Turns out it's the healthy and smart alternative to alcohol, many pharmaceuticals, lots of other things. And in the form of edibles, it can be very, very strong. In fact, the biggest problem with edibles is people eat a little bit too much and then they get too high. And they don't like that very much. But because you can get too high, you can get high enough and not go that extra level there to the uncomfortable state of being too high. And so cannabis, in that sense, can offset the use of much more, well, not much more potent, because like I said, cannabis can do the job of painkillers, powerful painkillers, and these highly addictive powders and substances that are out there. So our refusal makes no sense. Literally, what the fuck? Like, are we living in such a totally corrupt space here in Canada that our government thinks that it can just dispense an edict from their ivory towers back in Ottawa that are going to affect the lives of hundreds and thousands of people here on the west coast of British Columbia, and that we're just supposed to comply with that? I don't know what to say, other than I guess there's never been a better time to write your local government, send an email, make a phone call, all of those sorts of things. Or maybe it's all just useless and hopeless. Or maybe we got our refusal because not enough people actually got on board with us and let their feelings and their intellects be known by Health Canada. Certainly the last chapter has not been written in all of this. Now we're just a little more rogue and rebel than we were prior, because prior to this refusal, I've at least been banking on the idea that we're having our licenses still pending at some point. But now we have a different fight to fight. Maybe now the fight really begins. Part of it will be in court coming up in October and November. And part of it will be in doing what we can to influence prior to that. And there still are many things that we can do. We will be holding rallies here in Vancouver. We will be continuing to be as vocal about it as we can. We'll do what we can to get the media to understand the story and be willing to cover it. And who knows which of any of those or all of those together where we might end up down the road. I am still optimistic. I still have hope. I still think that there's enough of us in this together that we can do this, and that it's important enough that enough people are going to get it and get inspired to be on board with it, that we will reach critical mass at some point and get her done before the government reaches critical mass on their end and locks us in to a form of so-called legalization that is really nothing more than a ramped up prohibition with a new player in town being the Trudeau cartel or the government cartel, which in many ways is worse than it was before. Fighting the government is not easy, and as we've been laying out today, having the mainstream media ghost what is an extremely important and powerful story, both what happened on Canada Day and on what's happening with us in our pursuit of some support in our efforts to address this public health crisis. So we'll keep on keeping on and see where that leads us, you know. The store will still be open, the RV will still be open from 11 in the morning until 7 at night, just west of Main Street on Cordova, 7 days a week. The court date will continue to loom. And by the way, if you know of a doctor who would support, I know that's asking for the enemy to send one of their people over to, to help us. But not all doctors are corrupt. Some doctors have seen the power of low barrier access and high dose edibles in a variety of different issues. We need some of those doctors. We would like to have some of those doctors help us in court coming up in October and November. So if you have a doctor that supports your cannabis use that would be able to testify to the value of you being able to access cannabis in a low barrier system, then please get a hold of me or Jack Lloyd and bring that doctor on board with what is such an important case coming up here as we try to determine maybe once and for all about whether or not the government has the right or any justification to prevent access to this natural occurring plant. These are heady times that we're living in here. These are extremely important issues coming to a head very soon. Now's a good time to get on board with that. Before we go outside, I just want to mention that we're not alone here in Vancouver with the Cannabis Substitution Program, that our roots have spread far and wide across Canada. In Halifax, the East Coast Cannabis Substitution Program has been going for almost 4 years now, maybe more. Have to get Chris on the show one of these days soon. No resistance from authorities, a great demand from the people in need, and wanting us to succeed so that they can succeed. There's been a few pop up lately here in our area, people that know me personally that have been inspired and know the needs in their area. Rosie and her crew with the Surrey Cannabis Substitution Program, doing fine work, attracting good donators. By the way, all of these CSPs need donators, us included here. We're good right now, as I mentioned, but that's a short-term good. When you're giving up upwards of 15,000 milligrams every day of high-dose edibles, and some of them come in gummies that are 20 milligrams each, you can appreciate that it goes very fast. And our needs are ongoing and up and down. And needs are much more crucial in those other areas. Halifax for sure, a remote area, not the same culture of cannabis consumers that we have here in Vancouver, yet still managing to maintain what they're doing there. They could really use some help. I'm sure that Rosie could with Surrey as well. And with Bridget and Gary in Newton, that have taken it to heart, and things are rolling, and they've got good donators, and things are happening, doing fine work there as well, getting to the people that need it, and changing lives, and that's what it's all really about. The cannabis legalization in Canada may be about making money for rich people and providing access to rich people, but what we're doing here and what we're demanding in low barrier access is for the poor people. And it's not about making a ton of cash on the poor people. It's about allowing them to have reasonable access to a plant that would be reasonably brought to market at reasonable prices if government interference wasn't driving the price up and maintaining those artificially high prices that are literally eliminating the people that need it the most from the marketplace. So I guess that kind of wraps it up. I mean, I usually do a summary, but we've talked a lot about the CSP today.
I have a question.
We have a question from the peanut gallery.
Yeah, from the peanut gallery. Does the doctor have to actually come and testify, or could they do an affidavit? Because I'm thinking that a doctor can't take a day off from his patients.
Of course.
But it might be easier if they could get a doctor to do an affidavit on how it's helping his patients.
Affidavits are good, and I'm not sure about witnesses. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
The courts these days are all about zooming in.
They got people
court
so we can do that.
That's
That's probably a lot easier. Yeah,
you could probably be in a courtroom and not have an actual judge or a prosecutor there at all. They're just images on a screen.
My family court is that way. Yeah,
it's insane.
It's all through MS Teams.
It's insane.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would be a really, really powerful thing that you could do to help us in our motion here, our movement here, our movement for low barrier access. It's coming down to a court case by the looks of it. A court case that can be win or lost based on, what sort of evidence we can bring forward. So the more we have in our arsenal, the better off we're going to be in getting the right thing done here and having the courts set a proper precedent that will allow reasonable storefront access for people to, the cannabis that they need in the ways that they need them. The government has no logic on their side, but they have an awful lot of power. And with the media seeming to be also in their court, it's more and more difficult to win against them. But let's see what happens. And, we are all media, and we can all influence. And one voice can make a huge difference. And it can make a difference not just because it's a profound voice, but just because it's a voice added to the chorus and the discord. That critical mass is a real thing. And with enough people and reaching that number, whatever it is, that percentage, whatever it is, but when you actually obtain that critical mass of ideas, one person can be powerful. Two people can be even more powerful. A group of people joining together with the same goals can be extremely powerful. Let's crystallize in our minds what these goals are, what needs to happen. That the government needs to get out of the cannabis business. It needs to have the free marketplace determine the value of cannabis. It needs to not be taxed when being used for a human being's benefit, when it's being used to offset the use of harmful things that cost our society. There's no need to take a tax from that. In fact, there's good argument for some encouragement and supplementing for people that would access that other than those other things that cost our society. We need to be crystal clear on what we need. Low barrier access. We need to fight for it together. To join our voices in discord. To articulate the right and the wrong. To put the government back under the threshold that they deserve to be under. That they should be operating within parameters that wouldn't allow for the excessive expense of tax dollars to try to keep people from using a medicinal herb for their own benefit. That should not be allowed. It should be quickly, easily identified as wrong and stopped. So let's all get clear. Let's all make everybody else as clear as we can be. This is not the legalization that's been fought for all along. This is the attempted hostile takeover by a bunch of rich people of the cannabis industry who are able, through their levers of control with our government, able to get the government to devote tax dollars to running a protection racket to keep these independent producers of cannabis free from competition and the free marketplace. This cannot be happening. We cannot allow this in this country we call and love Canada. If I'm to love Canada, I need to respect our government. And if I'm to respect our government, they need to stop this 100-year-long war on cannabis consumers and cannabis in the marketplace. We need cannabis lounges. We need low barrier access. We need the government to not have the ability to prohibit access to cannabis and put unjustified taxes on all of these things. We need the freedom that our forefathers have been fighting for a long time, and that we are not being given by those people who have seized power over us. So, do what you can.
Keep talking for a minute. We got somebody advertising. I gotta get rid of them.
All right, you can't advertise on the thread here. This is Cannabis Culture after all. Big thanks to Cannabis Culture. I haven't done that very much. I get to broadcast here on this channel, through the media mogul, which is Cannabis Culture, with millions of subscribers. And I'm very, very appreciative of that. It's quite a voice to be able to have, and Pot TV gets a lot more respect than you might think it gets around the world. And very privileged and honored to be able to be using their broadcast network to do that. So a big shout out to Cannabis Culture. Cannabis Culture is still very active. If you go to the website, you can see that there's a lot of things going on there, a lot of stories being told. They're still active in their retail sales. There's things you can purchase through their online store, and that's a good thing to do, is support the group. Still Jody and Jeremiah right now are still running things, and trying to do the right thing, trying to get legal, and that's the right thing to do. I mean, it's what we've always been fighting for. We wanted to legalize and regulate. Now we want low barrier access, but we're all still fighting for the same thing, and that is that the average person can go and get cannabis brought to market by the average person at a price that makes sense for both people. And why the hell not? That's for damn sure. A shout out to Glenn, my producer, for all the fine work that he's been doing to keep us on the air. We're closing in on 200 episodes here. When did you take over? Have you done 100 yet?
Oh, I don't know. I haven't been counting.
Probably not 100.
No, probably under that. I think just this year,
a year, so 50 maybe, something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Big shout out to Neil.
Yeah,
prior to that,
first.
Did a great job of getting the show where it was before Glenn took over, and Neil pursued other things. Glenn, of course, has canamatch.ca.
Okay, I think we're good.
That's a great place to go and meet other people. Be you have romantic aspirations, or be you just want to hook up with somebody who's, another consumer of cannabis that shares your ideals and stuff. So check out cannabis.ca, or canamatch.ca, not cannabis, canamatch.ca. There's an app, there's other things, there's free points, there's all kinds of different stuff going on there. Glenn will tell you more about it in upcoming shows, I'm sure.
Yep.
And
we're on Google Play Store too.
Google Play Store.
There you go.
There you go.
All right, you ready to go
All right,
outside?
ready to go outside.
All right.
See what's going on out there. Yes. As you say, he's been sitting in for a while. So here we have the weekly THC weather report. It is just beautiful out here. It's not too hot. It's been a warm day yesterday.
Sterling says I have to make a funny face at you.
Oh, that was funny, Sterling. If you saw that, you'd laugh. Pretty sure. How could you not? So yeah.
We're live.
We're live on the Pot TV. We do it every day here other than Mondays. These people they're up there, became members, and they can come every 4 days. Yeah. But if you didn't get on the list, then we can't expand the list. But everybody gets a muffin or a joint every day anyway if they can't afford it, which is kind of like being on the program anyway. But yeah, when we moved here, we stopped having it like once or twice a week. We went 6 days a week, and we're still there.
Yeah. Thanks.
You're welcome. A beautiful day.
It is.
I can't say
I didn't
enough.
put the gentleman on camera. I was just pointing that way because we didn't have his permission. So.
Well, he was wondering if we're ever going to do the thing we did at Van Du again.
Oh, the lineup.
Yeah, well, at Van Du, we had the program going on there. We actually called it a project at that point. And once we got the storefront, because the city said we could move into a storefront, then it became a project. Then it became a program.
I get the project and program you mixed up too, yeah.
There was just a subtle change there. But the program, we tried to get as many of the people going to Van Du and lining up there to be part of the program so that they could come every 4 days and get 420 milligrams of their choice. Not everybody made it on there. Some people, weren't coming regularly or didn't realize we had switched or whatever. And so they don't know what happened to the lineup at Van Du. They don't know that the project became a program and that, there's still hundreds of people, much like we had at Van Du, that can get their 420 milligrams, but they don't have to line up twice a day for a few hours to get it.
Yeah.
They can come anytime they want. We don't run the program on Mondays. We have that one day where, we just don't do it because we never did, and we just haven't yet. You got a car behind you?
All right. Car. Supposed to be a little car.
Yeah. So we're playing hockey here?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. It's Canada.
Your
Yell
name
car.
is Magnuson. You got to yell out
Yell
car.
car.
Car. There you go. See? That's how I respond.
But, as I mentioned to him, if you didn't get included in the program, and now it's really too late for that, it doesn't matter. You can at least come and get a muffin or a joint or something to get you through to the next day. And if you have no money, you can do that every day. So those people that do that every day, and there's quite a large body of them that come here every day to get their joint or their muffin, they're like part of a program.
Yeah, there's one waving right now. He comes here every day.
Yeah. So we don't turn anybody away. We try to make sure we have enough for everybody. That is an issue, one of our biggest issues. I mean, if Health Canada really wanted, to do the right thing down here, they would not only approve our application to keep doing what we're doing, but they would come in with all of their resources and make sure that we don't turn anybody away.
Yeah.
Make sure that we have the capacity to deal with more people and maybe more locations, and we can really do a greater job of meeting the needs during this crisis of overdose and death. Health Canada, do your job.
Yeah. Let's keep the health. Keep up the health of Canadians.
Somebody ripped off my wood there night before last.
Oh, they took the wood?
It. Yeah, it's not completely impervious apparently.
Oh, wow.
So they broke, some of the things that hold it together on the inside and got inside there, ransacked the whole place, pulled all the seats out and everything. There's nothing to steal in there. We never leave anything in there. I mean, my goodness, we've been broken into how many times now? But they still break in. They still make a mess for us, and broken glass and what have you everywhere.
Wow.
It's very, very sad. But anyway, still dealing with all that. These are some of the problems that we're having because we can't get a license to be in the store.
Yeah.
If we were in the store, none of this stuff would be happening. Sign repair while we're at it.
There you go.
Well, it's a busy day on the street here. Maybe we'll give it a couple of cars here.
Oh, yeah.
All right, thank you. We do get so much love here, that is for sure.
Oh, Sterling says nice hat.
Yeah.
Nice hat.
I got weed from the candy bar right here.
Nice.
Hey, what's going on in here? Hello. Hi, Elizabeth. How are you? Doing good. Are you getting what you want here? Can I put you on camera? This is Elizabeth. Elizabeth has been coming to see us for 6 years. 6 years now. Yeah. And on Saturday, we're going to be up a little farther. They're doing stuff on the street here.
Wherever these guys are, I go.
Nice.
I have to move.
And you're looking so good. I mean, I remember you 6 years ago.
The capsules.
You're
in there
looking
by
younger.
chance?
You're looking better, I think,
Over here.
You've always had such a nice smile,
nice.
but you look like you're doing really well. How would you feel if I told you that the government has denied our application and we're going to have to stop?
I owe you $2 chips.
That would be devastating.
And that's what's happened. We're not stopping. Don't worry.
I know that.
Don't worry. But that is what's happened. Is after
Anything I can do.
write us a letter. Right? And if you have a doctor, do you have a doctor that knows what you're doing with cannabis?
Yes.
And we need a doctor to come and testify in court in October and November.
Or write an affidavit.
Or write an affidavit or something like that. So if you could, at some point, leave me your contact information and we'll get together and I'll pass that on to my lawyer, that would be perfect. So,
Great, thank you.
yeah, there you go. That's what's going on.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Good seeing you, Elizabeth. Have a wonderful
Elizabeth is such a sweetheart, and if you could have seen her 6 years
It's on
ago,
his show. He has a show called Talk
and to
TV on
understand
YouTube. He
that,
does it every week
you know,
on
she could
Tuesday.
well not even be alive if
I
it wasn't
will.
for
I'd love
us.
to write a time.
And this is so important
It's also on YouTube,
for
right?
so
Okay.
many people here.
Do you use
Those hundreds of people that we brought
Is
with
it-
us from Van Du,
Pot TV?
pot.tv.
Afterwards, live is on Facebook
I know.
at Cannabis Culture. CC Magazine. You look up CC Magazine.
And that's for you people out there too, although
Yeah.
you're already watching it, so it doesn't
Yeah,
matter. But
yeah.
Elizabeth wanted to know how she could watch the show.
Yeah. So live on Facebook. Afterwards, it goes up onto YouTube. Okay.
So this is the thing of it.
What was that?
It's been almost 6.5 years. We have these hundreds of people that were coming to see us at Van Du that now come and see us here. We know these people personally.
All right, well, you know what?
We've seen them
This should be enough, but if not,
transform
we'll
from
make
where
sure
they
I'll
were
have
when they
it all ready
first
for
started
you.
coming to what they are today, which are
Pleasure's
people
on
with,
my
as you can see, she's got a big sparkle in her eyes there. She's got a big smile on her face there. She's come a long way out of where she was 6.5 years ago.
Because of you.
And well, because of cannabis, because of the easy availability of cannabis high dose edibles, got her off the hard drugs, and has maintained her to today, where she's a regular functioning human being with a little bit of a jump in her step or skip in her step and a gleam in her eye. And the government wants us to say no to these people. And you see what she said when I said what would happen if we went away. She said that would be devastating.
Yeah.
Devastating. And we know this to be true.
She probably wouldn't have made this 6.5 years if there was no cannabis in her life.
If we
Down
disappeared,
here, that's
I tell you right now, she wouldn't know where to go and get anything like what we have
Yeah.
here. There is
Yeah.
no place for her.
yeah.
I don't know where she would go or what she would do, but I know it wouldn't be good. And I know that I can't turn my back on her. And for the government to be asking me to do that,
You got it, man.
they are either extremely
I know,
ignorant
I know.
or they are very cruel. One of those two.
Wonderful day.
So we'll see where it all goes. In the meantime, you know what we tell you all the time: write letters, make phone calls, talk to people, contact the media, whatever you can do to help us with our story. Because the mainstream media won't tell the story here, and it's a big story that needs to be told. And if it doesn't get told enough in the next few months leading up to the court date, and if the mainstream media won't cover us there, then maybe the government will still get away with saying no to hundreds of people that will be left desperate and in distress. So do what you can. I highly recommend it. It's a great way to live your life. Devote a certain amount of your time to help make the world a better place is a really good thing to do. If you're frustrated by the state of the world, doing something about it, even a small thing here and there, can really help you feel better about what's going on here. At least you're trying. This is a great opportunity, a great vehicle to feel better. Highly recommended. Get on board the team. Freedom is what we're after. The right to do or not do whatever you want to do or not do unless you're harming somebody else. Limited, accountable, transparent public servants is the goal.
We still don't have any
Public
joints
servants
listed.
who know that their role is to try to protect the individuals in this country. That's what we need. You can help. Go about your life doing that as best you can. Be kind to yourself, be kind to everybody you meet, and most importantly, because life is so short that it's just too serious to take too serious, have as much fun as you can. We'll see you next week.